Episode 3.
Guess what? It's our third episode. Can you believe it? Yes.
Third episode in Twilight Saga. Midnight Sun.
I almost said New Moon. That's wrong.
Do you want to read New Moon next?
Let's do it.
No, I don't want to.
No, thank you. Hey, I'm Derek.
And I'm Noah, and you're listening to A Bite of,
where we take our current favorite pop culture obsession and enjoy it one nibble at a time.
What?
Sound effects.
We have a soundboard for that.
But I made it up myself. Trademark patent on this date of that year.
So now we're in chapters 11 through 15?
Correct.
Okay. I keep
11.
wanting to say 10 through 15 because it's 5 chapters.
Right.
But that's not how math works.
It's not. Yeah. Yes.
Because 5 plus 10 is 15.
5 plus 11 is 16. 2 plus 3, 5. Math.
That's why we don't have a math podcast.
No. So we've decided, in our trailer, we said that we're not a food podcast.
No.
And now in episode 3, we're not a math podcast, in case you haven't realized that.
Our strong suits are not in either of those things, even though we do consume food professionally.
Delicious. So before we add 5 more chapters to this, let's take a subtraction and look back at the last 5 chapters.
Ooh, good segue. I like that.
I'm trying. So in chapters 6 through 10, we have the whole blood typing incident in biology.
Yeah, Bella hates blood.
Edward's
a vampire.
I mean, the irony, don't you think? Alanis Morissette.
None of that stuff in there is ironic.
Stop. Oh, I thought you meant just... I actually don't know if my thing was ironic either, but maybe that's just following the trend of Alanis Morissette. Opposites. The song should have been called. Or Unfortunate.
Yeah, exactly. God. None of it's ironic.
So Bella doesn't like blood. She faints.
Right, you're right.
There's really a lot of, like, Edward stalking her. There's sort of a revelation of their feelings for each other. There's a lot of cafeteria chats, a lot of car chats. She goes to Port Angeles with Jessica and Angela. And then there's that whole horrible scene where those guys try to attack her. Edward swoops in, saves her. Traumatic event, Italiano.
And then I'm a vampire in the car.
Right, exactly. So then there's the coming out of the vampiric closet where he finally admits... Mom, Dad, girlfriend.
That's all he says.
That was beautiful. Don't touch that. See, sound effects for the win.
So that brings us to chapter 11.
Yes.
But before we get into this, so we did give a little bit of spoilers, but if you're in it this far, you've probably listened to the other 2. And if you're reading along, we just had to forewarn you that there will be spoilers for chapters 11 to 15.
Yeah, so let's get into this next bite of Midnight Sun. So chapter 11, interrogations. Edwards.
That's the last segment. How dare you?
Edward. Yeah. I'm done. We're there already. Edward gives Bella a ride to school, and the student body goes cray. He proceeds to spy on her all morning until they share some pizza.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I'm calling these 5 chapters the courting quintet.
Yes.
Because it's 5 chapters of them, like, getting to know each other.
In the cafeteria.
Yeah, it's like they're pretty formulaic, and, like, it starts with some sort of interaction in the morning. He spies on her during class, then at night, and then they see each other again at lunch and talk.
Yeah.
So, something though, this actually starts with like a CNN report.
Yeah, so the last time we talked, Carlisle and Edward go off to go find those terrible men that were going to do something to Bella. Carlisle's like, I'll handle this. Vampire Dr. Daddy. Got it. He got his black bag. Yep, got his black bag. And then Edward ran to go sleep stalk Bella for the 5th time so far in the book.
Gorgeous.
So then we find out what he did. I mean, I don't really know what he did, but so it opens with the CNN, news story. Edward's watching this, and the guy is found, I believe, in was it Oregon? Right, Portland. Yeah, he was found in Portland. He was in an alley right next to the police station, unconscious.
Correct.
And they had been looking for him because he's wanted in Oklahoma and Texas for the things he was trying to do to Bella.
Being horrible.
Right. And so I guess Carlisle, what he did was knocked him out and then drug him all the way to Portland to then give him to the cops there. I'm just confused because if he's not wanted in Portland, why did he bring and how did they know?
Yeah, so I was like giving this some thought, right? So in the last episode we were like, murder him,
right,
and they didn't. And so I guess the whole thing is like we can't have any implications in this. If they find a mangled body, they could trace it back to us. So we're just going to like drug them and bring them. I don't support it either. Right. Your face that you made prior to that noise was the facial equivalent of that noise. And that's why I said I'm not happy about it either. Because give me a break. Mm-hmm. But I did get a little bit of closure in knowing that his name was Orlando Calderas Wallace. So that's where Lanny came from. Orlando.
Okay, but I was really confused reading this pretty late at night because there was like 5 locations mentioned in that one page.
Orlando.
It was Orlando, Portland, Oregon, Texas, Oklahoma. I don't know what this guy's name is. It's one of those places.
His name, Oklahoma. They called him Okla and then Lanny.
Okie
Okie dokie.
I like this little thing that Edward said in this. He was happy. The reason why Carlisle brought him there, and it's found out later in this chapter, is that they didn't want Bella to see. Because if they found him there, then it would be on the local news.
The locale news.
And they didn't want Bella because they still weren't trusting her completely, that she wouldn't yap her gab about the vampires in town.
Shut your mouth, lady.
Yeah. But Edward did let this be known. He said, I caught myself hoping he would be extradited to Texas where the death penalty was so popular. It's like, so you still want to kill him. I support this.
Yeah.
I don't support that, but I support that.
For sure.
For sure.
For sure. So after that whole revelation, he wants to go and get Bella in the morning. And this is my first problem. Right off the bat, here in this chapter, okay? He gets there. This poor girl, she's running late. She's just trying to get ready for school. Last night, almost got attacked by a gang of horrible humans.
Then found out the guy you liked is a vampire.
Thank you. Right. Okay, she's having a bit of a hectic morning. Also, you were watching her all night. Maybe she wasn't fully asleep. So she puts her hair up just like in a little bun. She just throws on a really comfy sweater. And this sucker has the audacity to say this. The long sweater was too big for her, unflattering. It masked her slender figure, turning all her delicate curves and soft lines into a shapeless jumble. I appreciated this almost as much as I wished that she had worn something more like the soft blue blouse she had on last night. And this is not the last time he mentions the sweater. He cannot get over how, sort of frumpy the sweater is. Give her a break, Edward Cullen.
Yeah, it was a weird thing for him to say. Because the way it's described and the way it's phrased is he can't see her body.
Right.
Essentially. And he's just upset that he can't see her boobs. When Edward...
Boobs.
Edward is upset. He freaks out if he grazes her hand.
Right.
So it's an odd way of thinking. Like, oh, I can't see her body, but I can't touch her hand.
He goes on to say... where she would surely wear something pretty and delicate rather than this hideous sweater. How dare you? How dare you?
I mean, he's an expert in fashion, so we'll just leave it at that. Guess.
Fine. We'll have to move on. Because stalking and then making fun of her clothes, I don't appreciate this side of Edward Cullen.
And she was late. She was running late. Yeah.
He could sense her heart beating quickly. Or something. And then they end up going to school together, and everybody's all like, oh my God, what are they doing together?
There is one thing that I found, a little passage that was funny right before then when he's stalking her and then stalking her clothing habits. He said, "For a half a second, I was distracted by the possibility of what it would be like to try to kiss Bella. My lips to her lips, cold stone to warm, yielding silk. And then she dies." And I was like, oh, end of Twilight. Done. It's okay. Jeez.
That's it. Our first and last kiss.
Right.
Because she dies.
Mm-hmm.
Fools.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there is something cute that sort of happens. So he kind of like walks up to her as she's about to get into her truck, and she's like happy to see him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, right? So it's like, I'm trying to like feel my love of Twilight again and the romance again. And so seeing that, it's like, okay, so she isn't aware that he's stalking her all night and watching her all the time. So when she sees him, it's like, oh, it's that guy I like. You know, which is sort of cute.
Yeah, but even though he has not taken his eyes off of her for a second. Even when she sleeps. Mm-hmm. I mean, cool for her.
Yeah, I mean, it's all nice for her. I mean, I guess you just never know.
I can't read Twilight now without just being scared that he's always watching.
He's just always
her.
There.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's just always in the background.
There's also when they're in the cafeteria, when they're talking in this, and this bleeds into the next chapter, but he says in his inner monologue, he says, "How could she not realize I was in love with her? Because you don't tell her anything or spend time with her when she's awake.
Yeah.
So why would she know what your feelings are?"
I think it's infatuation. I think you're confusing things, Edward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and also it's badminton day. I guess week in gym.
Right. It happens a few times.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's this one passage that made me laugh. Alice was twirling her racket like a baton, staring at the ceiling. She took a step closer to the net, and Lauren flinched 2 steps back.
I love this. I love it.
I kind of feel bad for Alice. Everybody's scared of her.
Yeah. End of chapter 11.
On to chapter 12.
Mm-hmm. So that's all that happened.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
She wakes up, they go to school, they have a little back and forth, and then that's it.
Yeah. No major revelations or anything. Mm-hmm. Chapter 12. Complications.
Okay.
No touchy. Okay, touchy. Edward plays matchmaker and Bella goes to gym.
I did like this chapter. I liked that part of this chapter. We'll get to it, but I liked that little matchmaking part.
Sure.
It was cute.
Which actually started in the previous chapter because he's always spying on Bella and looking through everyone's eyes. He gets her in a monologue. Mm-hmm. And so Mike Angela is a douche. Mm-hmm. And then Jessica is a bitch. And then Angela is just like nice.
He even says that he likes being in her head.
Yeah.
Because it's kind and pure.
Yeah. Like she thinks about her brothers and she wants to go to the beach and she has a crush on someone. And so she's just like happy to be around.
Right. And she was so nice to Bella and to him whenever the almost assault happened that he says, you know, I want to give her something. There has to be something that she wants. Humans usually want some bauble or toy. His words exactly.
Bauble.
Bauble.
Mm-hmm. I love a good bauble.
Right.
So this chapter starts with Edward and Bella in biology.
Again.
And so it's an exciting day for the high school kids in Forks because they're watching a movie.
Whoa.
And it's Lorenzo's Oil, starring Susan Sarandon and Nick Nolte. Yeah, true story.
Yeah, I know.
Lorenzo's Oil.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Right? It's like Italian. They're Italian in it.
Yes.
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Who talked about it?
Someone recently.
We were at Amish.
And
was it Vinny?
It was Vinny.
I'm name dropping Vinny.
Yeah. Best friend Vinny was talking about it. And he was saying like they do like, I don't know if he was saying they were good or bad, but they do Italian accents in the movie.
No, he said they were bad.
Lorenzo, is this your oil?
Yeah.
Like that.
It fits. It's Bella Swan. She's Italian.
Italiano.
There we go.
Yeah. So there's this whole scene there, though, where like the lights go down and he can see perfectly in the dark because he's Edward the vampire. And they like, it's like that cute thing of like when you're sitting next to someone that you like for the first time and it's like, oh, I want to touch them. Should I touch them?
Get your hand like as close to them as possible. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, they're pinky grazed mine. What does it mean? What does it mean?
And then like 2 years later, you're like, stop touching me.
Never. Never will happen.
There is this weird interaction with Mike and Bella where he's pretty defensive and talks to her like, are you with the Cullen guy? He's a freak. like, why are you with him? And she's like, what is it of your business? What does that matter? And he was like, I don't like it. Well, okay.
Oh.
Yeah, she said, you don't have to like it. I'm like, get it, Bella. Get it, Bella.
I'm sorry. I've been here for 2 weeks, maybe. Right. Get out of my shit.
Yeah. I really don't like Mike. I don't.
Yes.
I think reading Twilight originally, I don't think I had a strong opinion of
Agreed.
Mike.
Yeah.
But in this one, hearing his thoughts and really seeing his motivations, no, I'm done with him.
I feel like in Twilight, I mean, I read this,
10 years
12 years ago? Yeah. They were very like baseline high school caricatures. Right. It was kind of like Mike had a crush on her. Angela was nice. Jessica was also sort of nice. Mm-hmm. But now they're like completely different.
Right.
It's crazy.
Right. And in this, they don't know. He hasn't talked to the rest of the family yet about Bella knowing, but the whole family knows about Bella knowing.
Oh, that's true. Good point.
Like they know that she knows that he knows that they don't know.
They don't know. They know that he knows. She knows. They know. He know.
Right. You know that last part was not words.
Hey now. Hey now.
Right. So there's this really interesting interaction when Edward and Bella are in the cafeteria, and he's trying to talk to Bella, and Rosalie, knowing that he can hear her, she's just screaming insults in her head to him, and it's hilarious.
Yeah,
I love it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Rosalie is kind of hilarious when she's doing stuff like that. And they have some conversations kind of about like him needing to hunt and how it works and stuff like that. And so
Bella and Edward,
yeah. And so he says like, when we hunt, we give ourselves over to our senses, meaning like no one can be around because they kind of give in to themselves.
He's an animal.
He's an animal. All his monstrous instincts take over and he can't help himself. If her fair skin were there, he'd have to tear into her, translucent flesh.
Yeah. And her tea-soaked eyes.
But also something that I found was interesting was that he says like everyone but Emmett would choose to be human again if they could.
Right, because Emmett is... He says something about how they all wish they could be like Emmett, because Emmett's just cool with it. Like he just goes with the cards he's dealt. And he's super strong. He has fun. He always says what's on his mind.
Fights bears.
Right. Yeah. He's great. He's living the best immortal Cold One's life.
Yeah. But it's just so interesting to me that like, I don't know, like, if Carlisle hated this life so much, why did he bring so many people into it? And then...
That gets explored a little bit later, in like chapter 15.
Yeah, that's true. But it just seems like they all just hate it so much.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where if you were on your deathbed and somebody could give you this magical thing to let you live a little longer, of course you're going to say yes. And then finding out the side effects and how it is... It's one of those things where, like, it's hindsight. Well, maybe I shouldn't have been this because I'm an immortal, beautiful person that has superpowers. Like, come on.
Don't bite the hand that feeds you.
Yeah.
Okay. Stupid. So then after all this, he goes home and everybody's like...
confronting him.
WTFECWB.
What?
What the fuck, Edward Cullen with Bella?
No. Jeez. If you have to explain it, it's too long.
I thought we were on the same page. Apparently not.
My favorite part about this, because I was waiting for Rosalie and Edward to have some type of fight. So this is why I'm reading Midnight Sun. I'm reading not for their fight. Well, kind of. But for them to have these interactions. All these interactions you did not get to see.
Yeah.
Because it's all in Bella's perspective.
Right.
So what happened when he went home? After he argued with Rosalie, or during the argument, he's reading her mind and he sees pictures in her head. And this is what he says. Also in her mind was Bella's face. Just a caricature of the face I loved. As much as Rosalie hated me in this moment, I was nothing to the hate she felt for Bella. She wanted to believe this hate was justified, founded solely on my bad behavior. That Bella was only a problem because she was now a danger to us. A broken rule. Bella knew too much. And she also, in the next paragraph, she calls Bella homely. I just love the I guess sassiness behind it, that I don't like her. And I want to see the caricature that she has in her head of Bella.
It's like a kid's drawing, like a circle head.
I just see. You remember that episode of 30 Rock Where they get the high-def cameras.
Yeah.
And Liz Lemon has all these, like, wrinkles and moles. Yeah. That's what I think.
The gobos. Yeah. They're really moraying.
Right. Yep.
And then, basically, he's like, look, guys, wasn't me. He said, Bella is friends with the great-grandson of Ephraim Black. So he's like, it was Jacob. Jacob kind of told her all this stuff that he probably thinks is like myth and fake.
Which he does.
Right. Yeah. And Bella, he's a Bella Swan. She's a too smart. She said, I know, vampire.
I don't think she said it like that.
That's what she said.
No.
She's Italiano.
All right. So that's the end of chapter 12. That's where it leads. He finally has that confrontation with the rest of the family and leads us to chapter 13, which is very adeptly named.
Another complication. Edward plays 101 questions with Bella at school.
Ugh.
Billy Black sees a cold one.
Yep.
So, again, we have another day at school with Bella and Edward.
Oh, but you were missing a very important part.
Tell me more.
So, sleep stalking part 6 happens.
I blocked them from my mind.
In the very start of the chapter, because the last chapter ended where school had ended. So this chapter picks up right before school starts. And what do you know? Where is Edward? He's in her room. He says, because they've been courting each other and he's getting more used to her and closer to her, he says, I did not feel the usual guilt when I returned to Bella's room that night, though I knew I should. Yes, Edward, I'm glad you're so self-aware.
Lesson not learned.
No, at all.
So they get to school, and it's Edward's day to ask her as many questions as he wants, because she got to ask him all her questions, and he told her everything about hunting and being a vampire. So he asks her just like basic, everyday, normal human questions. And so we took this information and we've created Isabella Swan's dating profile.
For Tinder. It's perfect.
So get ready for every single detail you ever wanted to know about Isabella Swan. Favorite color? Brown, like desert rocks and trees. Favorite candy? Black licorice and Sour Patch Kids. Anything chewy, I guess.
I support.
Favorite movies? Definitely Pride and Prejudice. The 6-hour one with Colin Firth. Vertigo and Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Beauty and the Beast and The Empire Strikes Back. I'm a total geek. LMAO. Gattaca. If you could go anywhere, where would you go? I think Prince Edward Island, Anne of Green Gables, you know. But I'd also like to see New York. And then, if I could go anywhere, I'd want to go to England, see all the stuff I've been reading about. What do you like to read? What do I not like to read? God. Little Women, Everything Austen, everything by Bronte, To Kill a Mockingbird, obviously, Fahrenheit 451, all of the Chronicles of Narnia, but especially The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, Gone with the Wind, Douglas Adams and David Eddings and Orson Scott Card, and Robin McKinley. Did I say L.M. Montgomery?
Did she read anything from the last 15 years?
No, she's a very old soul. Also, this is 2005. What music is in your CD player right now? Linkin Park, Hybrid Theory. Other than that, who are your musical faves? Oh, Simon and Garfunkel, Neil Diamond, Joni Mitchell, John Denver.
I mean, I love John Denver.
She's an old soul.
I love John Denver.
Coke or Pepsi? You wish. Dr. Peps, please. Favorite ice cream? Cookie dough, duh. Favorite pizza topping? Cheese. Boring, LOL. Favorite sports team? Ew, not a fan. Favorite gemstone? Topaz, like my fave vamp's eyes. Favorite flower? Dahlias for looks. Lavender and lilac for fragrance. Favorite place to spend your time when you lived in Phoenix? The library. And that ends Isabella Swan's Tinder profile.
That's not even kidding. I know if you're listening to this and haven't read the books, but if you're listening to this and have read the books, that is all of the answers that she gave Edward when he asked you these questions.
Yeah. So it's pages.
Yeah.
Pages of this stuff, of him just asking her like mundane questions. And I mean, totally natural, right?
Right.
When you're in a new relationship with someone, I always feel like there's that conversation, like where you guys just like talk the whole time and you're like, vanilla or chocolate, butter or cream cheese, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get to know the person. It's fine, but
as a reader,
the thing that made it hard was it was broken up. So when they were on the way to school, it was asking questions. They had to separate because they had separate classes. And then when you would see them again, more questions were being asked. And then blah, 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 blah. Keeps getting broken up. And as he drives her back home, and they're sitting in front of her house for like an hour, it seems, asking these questions. Guess who's rolling up the block?
Whoa!
The Black family.
The Black family. So Billy and Jacob were rolling down the street. They thought Charlie was coming.
Right.
Like Edward.
They were meeting him at the house.
Yeah, Edward can kind of like hear little rumblings of his mind, like a couple miles away. And then he's like, high alert, bad news.
Bears.
Black.
Wolves.
Yeah. Werewolves. Spoiler alert. And so there's this moment where like Billy Black catches him and he's like,
cold one.
He's like, it's a cold one.
Literally, that's what he thinks. Cold one.
And then Edward has like this like quick thing in his mind. He's like, well, I'm not trespassing where I'm not supposed to go. I'm on neutral ground. This is completely fine. They can't do anything. And he also says they're teethless right now. Or toothless right now.
Because there's no werewolves.
There aren't any werewolves right now.
I forgot that.
Me too. Yeah. It's funny because he says it later on in a chapter. Because I read it the first time. I'm like, I don't know what that means. And then...
they have no teeth.
Yeah, I was like, whatever. And then he mentions it again, I think in like chapter 15. And I was like, oh, I remember now. It's because they start coming around again that they start transforming into werewolves again.
Right. Like, it was something awakened in them because there's like cold ones around. Now you have to be werewolves again.
Yeah. The balance of nature. Yeah.
Convenient.
We also get in this chapter the Twilight name drop.
Yes.
So he says, it's Twilight, I said, the time when vampires come out to play, when we never had to fear that a shifting cloud might cause us trouble, when we could enjoy the last remnants of light in the sky without worrying that we would be exposed.
I mean, like, you're not going to die.
And then he says, get out of here, get out of the car.
Yeah. I did like that when he was reading Billy's mind. That's how he knew what he was saying. And he also read Jacob's mind. Yeah. And I really liked how he said, Jacob Black's mind, pure and open. It reminded me a bit of Angela's, only not so demure. It's like, oh, Edward's Team Jacob.
Just like everyone else.
Yeah, true.
But I think that's kind of the great thing about the Jacob character, right? I think that's why we all fell in love with him, because he was just this nice kid.
Yeah, he did love Bella, but it wasn't like a lustful love.
Right.
It wasn't a, I want to eat your face love like Edward. It wasn't like Mike. It was just, he loved her.
Right.
He just was always drawn to her. Then later we find out it's because of her uterus. But it was great leading up to that.
Yeah, it was really cute. And then, so after this whole Billy Black Jacob thing, he gets out of there. He goes home. And then there's actually a really sweet scene with Esme.
Yes.
I think he actually stops at the hospital first.
To talk to Carlisle.
So he talks to Carlisle. Then he goes home and he has a sweet scene with Esme. And I really appreciate these scenes. I think it's kind of along the lines of why you like the Rosalie scenes so much.
Right.
I feel like we really get to see Carlisle and Esme as parents.
Yeah, it is odd to me. I guess I don't understand it, but I think it's just because it's hard for me to see that, because you find out in this that Edward was made first.
Yes.
Before Esme.
Right. Interesting.
And so it makes sense that there's always been this thing in the lore of vampires that there's like an alpha or a father. So it makes sense that Carlisle, whatever. And it's just odd to me that they all fall underneath Esme and Carlisle. I get the appeal. I get that they're great as parent figures, but it is just weird for me.
To me, it kind of feels like single dad with a kid.
That's like 100 years old.
Right, but then he starts dating this woman, and although she comes into the picture after the son,
right,
it's now the stepmom.
Right. I get it. It is weird, but it's sweet, but it's weird.
Yeah.
This whole book's weird.
I mean, yes. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's just this really sweet scene, and she's just like, how are you doing? And he's like,
she's really encouraging. She's really sweet. She's definitely the heart of the Cullens.
For sure. And she says, oh, my son, how I do love you. When the hard part is over, I'm going to be very happy, you know. I think I will love this girl.
Yeah.
So it also feels very much to me like, I know we had like our vampiric closet joke, but it also feels like a very like LGBT thing. Like, I will love you.
No matter who you love.
No matter who you love.
Except the werewolf.
And it's okay that she's a stinking human.
She does say this thing, and I know I keep harping on the like sleep stalking, but I think it's hilarious how many times it keeps getting brought up. So this is ending chapter 13, and she says, will you go to her now? Yes, he says. She frowned, confused. What do you do all night? I smiled. Think and burn and listen.
Yeah.
Why are you encouraging it?
Yeah.
If you're a parent figure, stop encouraging this behavior. I get it though, like he's trying to get used to her scent, but just do what you did with the coat and have her sleep on some things.
Good call.
Then,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think about it in that sense as well. I guess he's like, he's trying to get like used to it. He's trying to build a habit. Like, I'm not going to attack this person.
Right.
I'm just going to let the venom fill up and it'll be fine. Yeah. But let me tell you, if you bring me a bag of cheese doodles, I'm going to smell, I'm going to eat it. Okay. I've been trying for years.
That's why you're not a vampire though.
I'm a cheese pyre.
Mm-hmm.
Delicious.
Mm-hmm. So end chapter 13.
End chapter 13. On to chapter 14. This one is called Closer.
Mm-hmm.
Reflections of the past and visions of an uncertain future.
That's uncomfortable.
You're welcome. So this, again, we join Bella and Edward in one of their many conversations of getting to know each other, and they talk about their past. So Bella talks about her mom and what her mom is like.
Her past dating history, which is non-existent.
And neither is Edward's.
Makes sense, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then we also kind of find out, like, he asks her stuff like, you know, what do you want to be? You know, and she says, like, oh, I just want to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I maybe thought being an editor, but that seemed too hard and competitive, so I just want to do something easy. And he says her dreams all had clipped wings, not like those of the usual teenager off to conquer the world. Obviously a product of facing realities long before she should have had to.
Right.
And I think that's a really good glimpse into who Bella is, why she's so just kind of even keel, why she's never trying to get the popular vote, and she's never trying to, you know, like beat anybody down. Like she's very realistic. She's very grown up. She's just like, okay.
She's a pragmatic person.
She's pragmatic, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is also where Alice starts having a lot of visions in these next two chapters. And Alice freaks out because she gets the vision of her finally being introduced to Bella.
Mm-hmm.
And Edward is like, whoa, wait, that might not happen. She's like, it's going to happen. I keep looking in different ways. It's definitely going to happen. I'm sorry. But also they have to go hunt because this is, I'm assuming Saturday, or no, this is Friday in the book. And they're supposed to meet on Saturday, Bella and Edward. They're going to hang out.
And because the visions that Alice keeps having, it's looking like more and more like he's going to kill her.
Right. She keeps having this vision of Edward holding a broken neck, drained Bella.
Yeah.
In the meadow. Same location.
Right.
Right.
And that's really chapter 14.
Right.
Right.
Yep. Alice gets to meet Bella for the first time. She's just like, hey, how's it going? And then Alice and Edward go off to hunt. He can be super full. Yeah. That's pretty much it.
On to chapter 15. This one is called Probability. More math. Emergency hunting sesh. Sometimes the fork in the road has more than 2 prongs, and some extra mountain lion blood just to be sure. Edward revisits his past when reflecting on one of the outcomes of his and Bella's future. So this chapter like escalates immediately.
It has a lot of exposition. A lot of it. And it's a lot of memory, walking down memory lane. It's a heavy chapter. Like it's very thick.
Sure. It's meaty.
Right. It's a meaty one.
So they're like driving there and she's like, you're gonna kill her.
Right.
You're gonna kill her. 80% kill her, 20% not, or whatever. Like the whole chapter is like, she's just like constantly telling him like percentages. Yeah. She's like 80-20, 60-40, 50-50. What are you doing? And he's like, I don't know. It's like very Billy on the Street. I'm feeling very Billy on the Street right now.
It's not helping him either that she keeps saying that. And he's like, all I can think about is literally what you're picturing. So how am I supposed to change this?
Right. She's like, bad news, bro. You're gonna murk her. And then like later on, she's like, well, maybe.
Yeah, so he comes to the conclusion that he just needs to realize that it's not totally his decision that she's in love with him.
Yeah.
She's in love with him because she's in love with him. He can't change that. He can't change that he's never going to be able to leave her. Be that kill her, be that try to be with her when she ages, or turn her into a vampire. And Alice essentially comes to the conclusion with her timey-wimey stuff that it's all one big knot, but there's a big decision that's going to be made, or a trial, she says, that they have to go through. Then the future becomes more clear.
Right.
And I think she insinuates that the meadow is a trial, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
And so like the various kind of forms of the future, the one main one that kind of spurs all this action is that he's going to kill her.
Right.
And then there's another vision where she, like, Bella's older.
Right.
And sitting next to Edward. And like Edward's a vampire, but she's still a human. But
Alice is there too.
Alice is there too, but she doesn't look happy.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Then there's another one where like a porcelain Alice is hugging a porcelain Bella. And it's like, oh, they're both vampires.
Spoiler alert.
And then there's this other option, which is a nice Sunday dinner with the fam.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's Italiano dinner.
Right.
You know? So it's like these sort of premonitions are like either super extreme or kind of humdrum. And it's very much this thing of like you were saying, like Edward has this realization. He's like, I just have to live in this moment of knowing that I love her. And that's it. And then she's like, and then Alice is like, well, whatever you're doing, whatever you're thinking, however you're shaping these moments, keep doing it. Because now it looks like 80% she survives, 20% she dies.
Yeah. Yeah, right? He has a talk with his inner goddess / monster. Saying that he's quiet now. He's hiding. He's saving his strength for the fight that was coming. I mean, I think we all know how this plays out. He doesn't end up killing her, but it is interesting to see how much battling he did behind the scenes.
Right.
And that's why we're reading this, that we never knew about that thing with Alice and him and all of these premonitions and visions that she's seeing. After he leaves there, he goes straight to watch Bella sleep. So part 7, 8 of sleep stalking.
Sleep stalking. But on his, like in between these two things is when he has this flashback.
It's when he's there.
Oh, it's when he's there?
Yeah, it's when he's there watching her. That's when he has this flashback.
Right. Because, like, doesn't she, like, do her hair real nice because they're going out the next day?
Taking forever to go to bed. So he's sitting there reminiscing about this very specific incident in his past.
Yeah. So that's when we learn that, like, in 1919 or something like that, was like it was like about a year that he'd been turned into a vampire by Carlisle. He's, like, very much having to test the limits of what it means to be a vampire,
without killing people.
Right, how to fight his natural urges. There's this really funny thing where like he's walking around, I think they're like in New Brunswick, and he's looking at humans and he's like, look at their disgusting lumpy faces, these fat turds.
Yeah, he's like, I don't know how we ever blended in because we looked perfect compared to everybody's lumpy features.
I'm like, this is the Bella sweater incident all over again. And so he comes back. Carlisle makes it Christmas for him because he sees that he feels like he's going to miss these old traditions of being a human.
Yeah, because Edward's already feeling disconnected.
Yeah.
He feels that the traditions, and it was Christmas time, they go to some town to test his limits. Like he's like, go walk in the town, be amongst the people. We're going to stay in an inn. That way you can smell all the scents. Yeah. But it was really a ruse.
Because, it was a ruse!
Right. When Edward comes back to the room, he has this, like, Christmas tree thing. There's not the candles involved. It was a weird picture. Yeah. But I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah, and then they decorate the tree.
Daddy Dr. Vampire being all sweet.
Daddy Dr. Vampire, hashtag Daddy Dr. Vampire, paging, hashtag Daddy Dr. Vampire.
Oh my God.
And so we kind of see this thing as like really sweet. And then they go tromping through the forest.
To hunt. Mm-hmm.
And they come across some
Carlisle's old
friend,
coven mate, I guess.
Yeah. Siobhan.
Yes.
And then she has like this like little weird vampire girl with her, Maggie. Yeah, and they also mention another vampire, Liam, but he's not there. Mm-hmm. Have we ever met? Is this like a Peter Charlotte thing?
For some reason, I feel like we've met Liam and Maggie. I'm not too sure about her because when I saw her name, I had a hard time trying to pronounce that. And I'm glad you said it because I would have said like Sinbad or something.
Siobhan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like we did. And so can Maggie so she's talking to Siobhan, but through her mind.
Right, telepathically.
Right. So I don't know if she can
Was that like the Volturi girls thing?
I don't know. It confused me a little bit because he even says the reason why Carlisle didn't tell her about Edward's gift is because apparently this vampire is drawn to wanting to collect
gifted
vampires. So she's like, why did Carlisle he's talented. And that's where we find out Maggie, she's this younger girl, but she apparently has an ability, but it's not exactly clear what she has.
Cut to the future. Carlisle's doing the same thing.
I don't think he intended to do that.
Sounds fishy to me.
Only 3 of them have powers, though, out of the 800
of them.
Yeah. They don't have as nearly as cool powers as the guy that can control elements. Okay?
That's true.
Yeah.
By the way, this whole flashback scene, I picture in the same style of Robert Pattinson in The Lighthouse. Just like black and white madness.
Less masturbation, though.
Less masturbation.
And alcoholism.
Right. But still very tortured.
Yeah.
Very black and white. Yep. Old school clothing.
So, I mean, that wraps up really... This whole big chunk was just really getting over the initial asking. And I find myself with a lot of parts in this book is kind of skipping over things that I know happen. Because when Bella's involved, I've already read it in Twilight. Right. So I'm really looking for all of the inner thoughts and interactions when Bella's not there.
What makes me a little sad about that, though, is that, because I kind of agree with you, like those Bella parts feel a little long to me. And when I get to the new interesting things, like this flashback, I'm tired.
It was a long walk.
It was a long walk to get to this new interesting thing about Edward's past. This is what I wanted. I wanted a little bit of his past. I wanted to see him and Carlisle in the beginning. And it's like, I just had to, for our bite of this time around, I had to sit through 4.5 chapters to get this tiny little juicy tidbit. Mm-hmm. And y'all know I've been waiting for that sparkle metal scene, but I don't think it's coming. Maybe
it feels
tomorrow.
Like it's taking longer to get to the meadow than it did in the book. But, I mean, this is why this book is much bigger than Breaking Dawn. So.
Yeah, totally.
So that's chapters 11 through 15. But now, it's Edward's time.
Welcome to another edition of Edwards.
God, people are going to be so annoyed with us.
Edward number 1.
God.
Stymied. Verb. To present an obstacle, stand in the way of. I feel like this is very directed towards Mike or Jessica or Rosalie or someone like that.
Yeah.
Second Edward. Obstinate.
Yeah.
Adjective. Stubbornly adhering to an opinion, purpose, or course in spite of reason, arguments, or persuasion.
Definitely Rosalie.
Mm-hmm. Aberration. Noun. The fact or an instance of deviating or being aberrant. Aberrant? Aberrant! Especially from a moral standard or normal state. Or something or someone regarded as atypical and therefore able to be ignored or discounted. Might have been talking about Ben.
It's Ben.
Yeah, that's
Angela's Ben.
Angela's Boo Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Next. Quarry.
A query?
Quarry?
What's the word again?
Quarry.
Oh, God.
So, quarry is an open excavation, usually for obtaining building stone, slate, or limestone, right? Which is like, oh, yeah, I know, but that's not how she meant it. Because she says it twice, she writes it, and it is one that is sought or pursued, prey. So whenever they're hunting, they call their prey their quarry.
Oh, I thought they were just in a quarry the whole
That's
time.
What I thought. That's what I thought. But it was like she ran down the rocks and was looking for her quarry. I'm like, but she's already in the rocks. It's her prey. And our final Edward of episode 3
I don't like this.
is implacable. Adjective.
If you guys could have seen the face he just made when he did that word, it was very particular.
Not placable. Not capable of being appeased, significantly changed, or mitigated. So that's like very like...
Can I get it in a sentence?
Edward is implacable.
Cool.
It actually says... Yeah, that's right.
For sure.
So those are the Edwards for episode 3. And the episode's over. So...
All right. Episode 4. Look for that.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to A Bite Of. Artwork and editing by our own Noah. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at A Bite Of Pod and on Facebook at A Bite Of. If you have questions, recommendations, or just want to say hi, you can email us at abiteofpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Please be sure to rate and review to spread the word. Hope you join us next time on A Bite Of. Bye.